today is an author who goes by many names, including Sarah Lunsford, Sarah Arden, and Saranna DeWylde. So join me today as we dish about the dish. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I miss your little face. I guess we'll just jump right into it right now. But what is your most memorable meal?
I had the hardest time coming up with something for this because I love food, obviously. I mean, look at me. I love it. But things that make food memorable for me it's not really the dish. It's the people there. It's the things that are happening. And the meal that's the most memorable for me, I don't even remember the name of the restaurant or what I put in my face except for the dessert.
Hey. So what was the dessert?
Chocolate covered strawberries.
Oh, so it must be so do you remember who you were with then?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
This was such a big deal for me. I had gone to LA for some convention. I think it was RWA. And since I was going to be there, I got to meet the producer who first optioned Sweet Hell on Fire, my memoir about my time as a corrections officer. And he took me to this place in Beverly Hills. And I already felt so fancy, like I get to go have lunch in Beverly Hills. I'm fancy. It's going to be great. And I had to rent a car and drive from the hotel because like a cab was so expensive and it was cheaper to just rent a car. And I wanted to tool around down Rodeo, and look at all the sights. And I saw so many people picking their nose. I've never seen as many people with their finger up to their knuckles than I did in Beverly Hills. And that was the first thing I told Robert when I met him. He was like, so how was your drive-in? And I was like, oh my God, so many people were like up to the first knuckle looking for gold. And he was like, what?
Wow, classy.
Yep. But it was so cool, this meal, because, have you ever had someone sit with you with your book and talk about everything they loved about it?
No.
Oh, he pulls out this weathered, worn, beat up copy and shows me all of his notations and all of the parts that he thought would look good on film and the parts that spoke to him. And I was like, oh my God, really? And people wanted to talk to him. They wanted his time, but he was like, I'm with someone. I'll get in touch with you later. And I was like, me? That's me. That's mine. That's awesome. So I don't remember the food except for the dessert. Because he insisted we get it. He was like, no, it's really good. You should have it. And then they bring it out. And I just ate one because I wanted to be polite. But he was like, no, eat this. Here, have it. And I was like, okay. But it was the first time that I really got to feel important and like something that I had written really mattered to someone. And so that was my most memorable meal.
That's amazing. And someday we will see that book into a movie. Someday. We know it. So it's funny that your most memorable meal included chocolate because in Fairy Godmothers Inc, your hero is the chocolatier, right?
Yes.
So I'm sure that does not have any correlation. It just happened to be a coincidence, I realize right now. But why did you make him a chocolatier?
Because I thought it would be funny. I mean, it just sort of came to me because originally, so the hero and the heroine have quite a few sexual mishaps. They're sort of cursed and they can't have sex. If they do, bad things happen. Like wild boars or a tornado will tear the roof off of the hotel where they're at, or, a swarm of bees. I mean, bad things just happen. But initially, he was going to be the boy who missed. And it went a lot more explicit than what ended up in the book. We're talking black gold fountains, and so to make him a chocolatier was kind of
you're sending people to what does that mean?
Yes, Google it or not.
How does your journey as a person, when you have these food sensitivities, when you're trying to be healthier, or like you fought COVID recently and having to struggle with nourishing your body with food sensitivities when you have COVID, how did you even, is it something that's so remote to you now, or does it still take careful planning?
It still takes some planning, but it's not like it was at first. When I first went gluten-free, excuse me, it was awful because, I mean, you know, that was 10 years ago and it wasn't as prevalent as it is now. And I had to really plan everything out. It changed the way I socialized with people. I lost friends because they thought it was a fad and they didn't believe it was a thing. I mean, even my mother was like, "Oh, you're fine." And I'm like, "But no, I'm not fine. You know, I'm 357 pounds and my body is starving. How does that work?" "Oh, because, you know, my guts aren't doing what they're supposed to do and I'm sick." And it was awful. It's a little bit easier now, but if I go to someone's house, I plan to bring my own food unless, you know, I know them very well. I'm not going to ask them to put themselves out for me. When I go out to dinner with friends at conferences, you know, they'll pick a place where I can't eat and I'll just have to be like, "Oh, well, there's nothing for me to eat there. So I guess I'll catch up with you guys later," and things like that. So, but recovering from COVID, that has been extra difficult because COVID left me with chronic fatigue syndrome, which is awful. So I was really sort of tooling around with the different things because I do believe that food is medicine. Just from my previous experiences, you know, changing my diet really helped how I felt. So I've been tinkering quite a bit and came up with something different than what I'd been doing. I'd been doing keto to try to lose weight, and I'd lost 100 pounds on keto. And then after I got COVID, I gained quite a bit of it back because there were 2 weeks where I didn't eat. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to eat everything and I just kept doing it.
And it's not like you're working out at all when you're just out.
Right. And I was like, "Oh, this tastes good." I mean, and when I got my taste back, I just put everything in my face that sounded good to me. And then I'm like, "Oh, wait, I'm almost back where I started. This is awful. We're not going to do this anymore." And then I watched an interesting documentary because my oldest kiddo asked me to, and it's called The Game Changers. And it's about how plant-based diets are more nourishing and can help your body heal faster. And I decided to try it. And I liked it. I was really surprised, you know, going from keto where I eat, you know, almost all animal product to, but I recently discovered I had more food allergies. Like I'm not supposed to be eating eggs. Dairy's hard for me. Mm-hmm. So it was like, well, okay, I mean, let's try it. I'll try it for a couple weeks and see how I feel. I feel really good. So, and my clothes are fitting better and I have more energy to do things. I mean, walking, just going for a walk is still hard for me. My lungs are still recovering from a year ago, you know, but I feel more like I have the energy and the strength to do the things that I want to do. And that's been, well, a game changer. Sorry about that. Had to do it.
That's okay. Because I was going to ask you anyway before, but your backdrop has brought the perfect opportunity because you went through Europe. And I think it's interesting how your favorite meal wasn't a European meal. But again, it's all about the experience and what brought you to that dish. So what through Europe did you take away as far as like foods and culture and food culture?
Well, I didn't eat a lot of the food there. I ate stuff from the grocery store. I did that trip. I was gone for 30 days and I did it on less than $2,500 and that includes the flight. So I ate a lot of cheese and meat sticks. There were a couple places where I had to try the food, like, you know, in Italy, of course, they had amazing gluten-free pasta. And, you know, of course, I had to have some of that. And then in Germany, I had some, what did I have? I don't know. What's it called? The little sausages and the cabbage?
The Venus Schnitzel Special. What is that called? We'll look it up. We'll Google search it later and put it in.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I had some of that and, you know, some other things. but mostly it was like in one place we would eat out. I had the worst barbecue of my life in Budapest.
I didn't fish and barbecue go together.
No, well, my friend and I were at this hostel, and you know how you meet people when you're traveling and you just go places with them. You're like, oh, you're fun. Let's go do something. Let's go look at this museum. Let's go eat. And he wanted to go have barbecue. And he was from London. And I was like, no, I'm from Kansas City, which has the best barbecue on the planet. I'm not going to eat barbecue in Budapest. And he was like, no, it'll be good. We'll do that. And he's like, my treat. And we were like, okay.
Your dollar.
First of all, we get there and it was Texas barbecue. Like, I'm eating Texas barbecue in Budapest. Just kill me now. Just right in the face. Just shoot me. Get this over with. And so I end up ordering, and it was awful. It was so full of sugar, and like, I don't like really sugary sauces. I like spicy sauces. And it was just bad. And they had this little map that said Texas was the best barbecue. And I was like, I'm going to burn this place down. I'm going to light it on fire. But
you should have grabbed 10 of them or 20 of the stack and just quietly wrote, Kansas City.
Yeah, like, this sucks. This story sort of almost vibed for one of the top, memorable meals. Because when the guy brought the check, the guy said that he wasn't paying when he invited us to go.
It was on him.
Yeah. And then he was like, well, I bought you girls drinks earlier. I was like, well, first of all, no one asked you to. Second of all, you said I will pay if we go to this place that we did not want to go to. Mm-hmm. So my friend who was with me, we ended up, she paid for the whole meal just to like flex on him. She was like, swipe.
Right.
And then we get back to the hostel, and he had asked her to, maybe hang out after. And she was like, no, I'm tired.
Should have blamed the barbecue. No, not feeling it.
Yeah. But also, like, at the beginning of the day, he was really fun. And, I was cheering her on. I was like, yeah, you should do this. But as the day progressed, he got more and more like a middle-aged, like, data analyst.
As they do.
That was that way.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Tell the people a little bit about your latest book that just came out, The Fairy Godmothers Inc.
Oh, well, Fairy Godmothers Inc. is about a little town in Missouri called Ever After. And it's a magical town that runs on love. Love fuels all magic. And because of the state of things in the world, the stores are getting low. Things are getting desperate. Yeah. And these three fairy godmothers, who are like the Sanderson sisters, if they use their powers for good, decided to see if they could get their charges to pretend to get married to make Ever After the premier wedding destination. And this was based on, there's a little town in Arkansas called Romance. Mm-hmm. And people will go there just to mail like Valentine's or wedding invitations to get that little stamp. And I was like, what if, So, and the fairy godmothers were like, what if? They're like, okay, so we can do this, and we can build this wedding planning business. And so they get their charges to agree. And it's, it's second chance romance.
So all the good.
And they have to deal with their own, their own insecurities and their own demons, really, to love themselves, and then they can love each other.
Excellent. Yay. So people need to go pick it up now and find you on all your social media things. And thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I want to thank Saranna again for joining me today. You can follow on all her social media, which will be listed down in the description below, as well as the link to her latest release, Fairy Godmothers Inc. Thank you so much for joining me today as well. Hit the subscribe button, the like buttons, everything, so you can make sure to join in on the fun of the future, and it does help out the channel, and we want to make sure we see you again next time as we dish about the dish.